Hi guys, okay, so quite a few of you were asking me about the problem solving questions. So rather than actually just doing it as photos, because sometimes obviously they might make sense to some, but they won't fully make sense, especially with some of the questions we were getting. So I thought I would make a video. Yay! Okay. Obviously, I'm alone in that because I am alone in my place. But it's all good. Okay, so we're just gonna run it through them. This question was actually pretty simple. It just looks incredibly hard, especially when a lot of people choose to do perimeter. If you do perimeter by looking at each and every side, this question is actually not that easy to do. But if you don't look at individual sides and you start collecting information together, then it was actually relatively simple. So if you look at this side, altogether, these three sides equal x, right? They've told you it's rectangles, so I know that this is going to be the same as that, right? And then the same would happen with this side. So you've got that, and that, which also equals x, right? And then up here, obviously, you've got that x there, and then down here, you have that x there. So far, I have 4x. Okay, all I've got to worry about is now these ones. Okay, if you try and find the individual lengths, this is going to be pretty weird because you're going to have more variables. You're going to have one variable that you have to introduce for that and another one for this. So rather than thinking about them individually, think about it as a row. So I know this is perpendicular, this is perpendicular. So if I did this, that would be x, right? But because I don't want the y, collectively, these two lengths together will be x take away y. So it's x, this entire length, take away that smaller one, right? And it's the same on the bottom. So I've got two lots of these. Okay, so all you need to do is expand that. So you've got 4x and you've got 2x, take away 2y. So altogether you will have 6x, take away 2y. And that is your entire perimeter. I know, it's not actually that hard when you think about it. Okay, so the next one, you should hopefully not have had too much problem with this one. So it's basically just one of the ones where you actually just have to take it and see what you can do. So otherwise you could do it via bar model or you could have just done algebra. It's entirely up to you. So it says 5 times a number gives the same answer as adding 24 to the number. Okay, so if I have 5 lots of a number, so I've got 5 lots of them, that is the same as me saying 1 of this number plus 24, right? So I can just cancel off these two, and then I say 24 into these 4, so each of them must be 6, okay? And that's all it is. What is the number? It's 6. If you'd done it algebraically, you would have said 5 lots of a number is equal to 1 lot of the number plus 24, and then just rearranged it that way, which would have given you 6 as well. Okay? So a few of you actually asked about this question. So what they've done in this question is they've said, give us the quadratic equations, but they've given you the solutions. Okay, so if they give you a solution, what they're asking for is the question. So rather than going, what's the question and how do I get there? What you should have thought is, I have the answer, how do I work back up to the actual question? So if I have the answer, I've got x equals 0, or I've got x equals 5. Okay, so I would say x take away 5 times x take away 0 is equal to 0, right? I don't really need this, so I can just put an x there. And then that would be x squared take away 5x. Is that quadratic? Yes, there's a square term. Okay, quad, square. So is there a square term? Yes. And you do the same with the other side, but you need to remember it does say quadratic. So if it does say quadratic, that means I have two answers. In this case, they're saying x equals 7. So that means I have a repeated answer of x equals 7. So I've got x minus 7 and I've got x minus 7 equals 0. So that would be x take away 14x, sorry, x squared. take away 14x plus 49 is equal to 0. Okay, so it's just working backwards. All of you could have done that. Okay, so in regards to this one, this is a beautiful question. There's quite a few ways of doing it. Otherwise, you could have gone down the route of going, I'm going to find the radius. And when I find the radius, then I'm going to find the arc of all 4 of those circles. Or you could have thought a little bit outside the box and gone, oh, what do we have? We have 4 circles in there. But if you look inside that square, you would have noticed that it's like that. And if I rearrange each of these, you would have noticed that would have made a circle. So I have 4 circles. So that's 4 times this 24. But I'm going to take away this circle that's in that square in the center. So I'm going to take away one of those 24s. Okay. So that would have just been 72 centimeters. Okay, so there is actually 2 ways of solving this question. What you could do is you take the perimeters of each of them, you add them up, and then you subtract all the ones that are in between. But you have to remember, when you're subtracting the things that are in the middle of the shape, if there is a duplicate, you also have to get rid of that. So the easier way might be just to find out what one side is and then total up all those sides. So we have that hexagon, and we know it's 24 in total, and it's regular, so each side is going to be 4 centimeters, right? And so all I need to do is just count up each of the sides. So there's 4, 4 on the other side, and 4 down there. So that would be 12 sides. So I'd say 4 times 12 equals 48 centimeters. Okay, so that's just 48 centimeters, nice and easy. If you'd done it the other way, you would have had 3 of those. So this is because there's overlap, sometimes people find it a little bit difficult to do it. So if you'd done it the second way, I would have said, well, it's 3 times 24 because there's 3 of those hexagons, and then I've got to get rid of those overlaps. So each side is overlapped once, and so if I've got 3 of those sides and I know all of them has an overlap, that's 6 sides altogether, which means I'm taking away one of those hexagons essentially. So it's going to be 3 times 24, take away 24, which would leave you with 48 centimeters. Hopefully that made sense. I would think most people, especially when you're first coming into problem solving, or if you want to explain it to someone else, this one is the easier method to do. This one is more for the people where you know the other person understands shape quite well. This would be explaining it to all ages. This one would make a lot more sense. This one requires just a little bit more detail because you can't see the overlap. You just have to recognize that there is one, if that makes sense, okay? But either which way, it would have worked out fine. Okay, so this lovely question, I do like this question, is asking you to find out the dimensions of each rectangle. So I personally don't know the dimensions. So what do? I do know they are rectangles though. So I know I have a base and a height. You could call them whatever you like. You could call them AB, you can call them something else. Most of the time people wouldn't choose letters that coincide with any of the letters on here. So I'm just going to call them E and F, okay? So there's that. I'm going to call this E and I'm going to call that F, okay? So in order to find out this, I know that this is 1F there. So I've got an F there. And if I go down here and I bring that up, that means I've got 2F, right? So I know that's my X coordinate. So I've got a 3 and 11. So I know 2F is the difference between these 2 coordinates. So 11 take away 3 equals 8. Okay, so this equals 8. So F must equal 4. And then once you have those, then you can find out the actual height. So when I'm looking at the height, I've got 4 and I've got 10. I know this one is 4. 10 take away 4 would be 6. Okay, so if this is 4, then that means this missing part is 6. That means E is 2. Okay, so if I want the dimensions, it's a 2 by 4. Okay, and then they are asking you for point C. Okay, and point C shouldn't be too hard once you already know how far you're going. So once I've got A, so A is my 3, 4, right? And then I know for my X, I'm going to go 4 and I'm going to go 2. So I'm going to add 6 to this one, right? So 3 plus 6 is 9. And then when I'm going up, I'm going to go up 4 just to get to that point. So let's add 4 to this one. That's 9, 8. Okay, so point C equals 9, 8. Okay, so for this one, it should actually be relatively simple because you're thinking, what is my scale factor? And so the scale factor to go from here to here, because we're going from A to B, we're thinking about the scale factor from A to B. So for the actual length, I don't actually have to work out the radius. You could work out the radius, backward work it, and then find it out and then compare them to each other. That's fine. You could do that. That's a long-winded way of doing it, but it works. Okay, but because my scale factor, I've got a radius here, and this radius is double this one. So my scale factor is times 2 when it comes to distance. So if this is my distance, what do you think my area is? It's times 2 squared. Okay, so 100 times 2 squared would be 400 centimeters squared. Okay, nice and easy. I am actually giving you guys really easy questions. They just look confusing, that's why. Okay, so in regards to this one, all I need to do is just find out the equation of a line. So I've got my y equals mx plus c. Okay, so I need to find out what m is. So m is my change in y over my change in x. They've already given me a triangle, so my triangle would be 8, and I've got 4 here, right? Yeah. So I've got 8 over 4, that means it's 2, okay? And do I already have the y-intercept? Well, yes, because it goes in 8. So I know it's y equals 2x plus 8, because I already know c is 8. Awesome! Okay, so this one was actually an extension onto the previous one. So I've written out this one, which is A. So A is equivalent to this. Okay, so all I need to do is now find B. So they've already told me it's parallel. So if it's parallel, I know that M is going to be the same. So B has to be y equals 2x plus something. I just don't know what that something is. But do I have a coordinate? Yes, I do, because that crossover, that x-intercept right there, would give me the coordinate of 10, 0. So all I need to do is substitute this into this equation, and then I can actually find out what the equation is. So instead of this, I'm going to have 0 equals 2 times 10 plus c. Okay, so 0 equals 20 plus c. C is equivalent to negative 20. So B must be 2x take away 20. Okay, so last one. We're looking at this line. Should be nice and easy to do. So all you need to do, it does tell you it's evenly spaced. So all you need to do is find out what all of this is. All of this should be 45. So to find out each of these gaps, I know each of them is going to be 15 because it's just 45 divided by 3. It's just, they've already set it up for you. Nice and easy to see. So P would just be 75 plus 15. So P is equal to 90. And then Q, you could say 90 plus 15, or you could say 120, take away 15. It's entirely up to you. But Q will then be 105. Okay, hopefully that made sense. If none of those explanations made sense, then obviously please do let me know. I know I talk in my own quirky way, and we do need to make sure that you kind of got what was going on there, because problem solving is something that's pretty important to all of you, regardless of whether you do maths or not later. Okay, do take care.